Hello, welcome to all of you. This Banking and Finance Paper 3, the chapter number 2, Negotiable Instrument Act 1881's online lecture. In the previous lecture, we discussed now about the distinguish between the bill of exchange and promissory note and check and bill of exchange. Today, we discuss now the distinguish between the promissory note and the check. Before that, we looking the meaning of negotiable instrument. The check, bill of exchange, and promissory note all are the negotiable instrument. A negotiable instrument means the method of transferring debt from one person to another person. So negotiable means transferable from one person to another in written consideration. An instrument means a written document which is give right a certain favor of some person. So it is a written document and it is the unconditional and is about the certain sum of money is given to the certain person. So negotiable instrument are the document in making by payment, ownership which can be transferred from one person to another person. Some types of negotiable instrument as per the law, the 1881, the promissory note under section 4, the bill of exchange under section 5, check under section 6, hundi and treasury bills. Also we use the some we bill of exchange like the promissory note, and we looking here the specimen of the promissory note. There are some certain things is the important in the promissory note. Stamp is required and there is no special format of the promissory note. Anyone can make the format. Sometimes the place is the top of the side, sometimes the bottom of the side the place is the mention. The rupees, the in words, in figures also, and two parties, the Mr. Sanjay is the maker and given promise to pay to Mr. Santosh. It is about the promissory note. And about the check, we're looking here the one specimen copy of the check. There are the three parties, the like the drawer, Mr. Santosh, and the drawee bank. The check is always draw on the bank, so bank State Bank of India is the drawee, and pay here write the name. The Dr. Kakasab the English school is the pay. The specific check number is mentioned in the check, the micro code and the transaction ID. Specific format is making for the check, and with the help of these two specimen, we can distinguish between these two negotiable instrument, check and the promissory note. First, we're looking the definition of the promissory note and the check. So, definition of the promissory note is given. The Negotiable Instrument Act, Section 4. Promissory note is an instrument in written, being a banknote or currency note, containing an unconditional undertaking signed by the maker to pay a certain sum of money only to order of certain person or bearer of the instrument. So promissory note is the instrument is a written promise given by one person to another person about the certain sum of money or the bearer of the instrument. And another side is the check. Check is an also written instrument draw on specific banker only and ordering to pay specific amount to specific person after its date. So check definition is given the Negotiable Instrument Act, the section number 6, and the promissory notes definition is given the section number 4. So here we discuss the some point also the difference between the check and promissory note. The about the promissory note, in their content is the promise. The maker or drawee is given promise to certain sum of money to certain person or the pay. So promissory note, there is a promise to note contain to pay certain sum of the money. In the other hand, the check, there is the order. It contain the order to pay certain sum of money to the certain person. The next is about the uh, number of parties. So number of parties only two in the promissory note. The maker and pay or drawee drawer and the pay. So there are only two parties, maker and pay, drawer and pay. But in the case of the check, there are the three parties, mean drawer, drawee, and the pay. So check is draw on banker, so drawer, the drawee, and the pay. There are the three parties into the check. The about promissory note, we also looking that the crossing, the pro note cannot be draw payable to the bearer and not using the crossing. So in the promissory note, we not use the crossing, general or simple crossing, but in case of the check, we use the crossing. So check may be a cross, it is the special crossing or general crossing. In the left side of the check, we can draw the two parallel line, and it is the account pay check. So it is the crossing using the check, not using into the promissory note. The another distinguish between these two, the payable to the bearer, the pro note payment cannot be stopped if the once is issued. So whenever the promissory note is issued, the payment cannot be stopped. But about payable to the bearer, in the case of the check, a check is often draw as payable to the bearer. These the distinguish between these two. The next point, the difference between the check and the promissory note. About the promissory note, we say that the liability of nature in the promissory note, in case of promissory note, liability is the primary thing about the promissory note. In about the check, the liability in the case of check, when it is dishonor, the drawer is the liable. So drawer who make the check is the liable person to about the liability, and in case of the promissory note, liability is the only primary. The next is about the object. It is used for receiving and giving the credit in the case of the promissory note. And about the check, the check is used the cause of because it is the simple and easy medium of the exchange and serving as the metallic money. It is the object of use of check. An object of use of promissory note, it is used to receiving and giving the credit to one person to another person. The next is a stop payment. A pro note cannot payment be stopped if he once issued. After issuing we cannot stop the payment of the promissory note. But in case of the check, we can stop the payment before of the issue. The payment can be stopped by giving notice to the bank to stop the payment. Check is given by mistake or the certain mistake made by the maker or drawer. So stop the payment in the case of the check, not possible to into the promissory note. The next is about the use of the form. Promissory note may be drawn on any paper. There is no need of any particular form, but we looking in specimen. There is a specific printed format available for the check, and it is a draw on the printed form issued by the particular bank. Every bank use the printed checkbook issued to their customer, and where the check number or customer name, account number, all are the mentions. The next is about the distinguish between the check and the promissory note. First is about the check, the drawing. A check is always drawn to be a particular bank where the account is available of the customer. In the case of the promissory note, not can be a draw on any person. So a promissory note can be drawn on any person, but about the check, the banker is only the drawing. So every check is drawn on the drawing of the any banker or bank. In the case of the promissory note, the any person become a drawing. And about the drawer and pay, in the case of check, drawer and pay cannot be same person, because drawer is the maker of the person and pay is the another person, where which is the mention his name, pay to the order. And about the promissory note, in the case of pro note, there are the two parties, the maker and the pay. So in the case of pro note, there are two parties, maker and the pay, and maker cannot be the pay. So here we end the distinguish between the check and the promissory note. So in the check, there is the order to pay certain sum of money, and the promissory note, there are the certain promise to give a certain sum of money to certain person. So there are two parties into the promissory note and three parties in check. The definition of the check is given the Negotiable Instrument Act 1881, the section 6, and the promissory note definition is given the section number 4, the Negotiable Instrument Act 1881. So here we complete the difference between these two. You can use for this point distinguish between check and promissory note the Nirali publication book and the Success publication book for your study. The next, what question will be asked in the examination on this point? They explain the distinguish between promissory note and the check. So explain the distinguish between the promissory note and check is the 10-mark question will be asked in your examination for the annual or term end examination. So here end the difference between the various negotiable instrument. In the previous lecture and this lecture, we complete the difference between the various negotiable instrument. We distinguish between the bill of exchange and check, the check and promissory note, and the promissory note and bill of exchange. So here end our the point, the difference between various negotiable instrument. Thank you for watching this video. In the next lecture, we looking the next point, the concept of negotiation and presentment. Thank you.